Close your eyes. Let the light behind your eyelids settle into stars. Let your breath match the rhythm of drifting things slow, distant, weightless, above you. A galaxy turns, a spiral of suns and silence. Each star, a question mark. Each planet, a possible reply. And here you are, one small listener, on one small world, floating in the vast hush of space, asking something simple but enormous: are we alone? It's not just a question of aliens, it's a question of mirrors, of echoes, of whether the night is quieter, just waiting for us to hear. Tonight, you don't need answers, just curiosity and calm, because this story isn't rushed. It flows like starlight, soft and slow. Together, we'll drift through signals and shadows, through galaxies and gut feelings, through life as you know. I tend life as it might be strange, distant, maybe listening back. Let go now. You are not alone in wondering. Is the first kind of connection. Chapter 1. The silence between stars. You float in the dark between suns, where silence is deep and ancient. But is silence the same as emptiness? We begin by listening down, wondering who else might be listening to. Close your eyes and imagine a place where nothing stirs. No wind, no voices, not even the gentle murmur of trees. Just stillness, just blackness. Now stretch that silence out across vast, unimaginable distances. You are drifting there between stars, and though you cannot hear it, this is the quietest place you will ever visit. Out here, the space between suns is so vast that entire solar systems can be swallowed whole in the gaps. The nearest star, beyond your own sun, is over for light away. That means if you could travel as fast as light, it would still take you more than 4 years to get there. And yet, the galaxy is full of these wide open spaces, deep oceans of distance. It is a kind of quiet that doesn't just lack sound, but lacks interruption. A sacred hush, but silence, you learn, is not the same as emptiness in that black expanse. There are fields of radiation whispering their slow songs. There are wandering particles, ancient light, rogue planets lost in the void. There is the background hum of the Big Bang, still echoing after nearly 14 billion years. There is always something moving, even in the loneliest corners. You float through this quiet, and your body becomes part of it. You feel the pull of gravity, the thin breath of cosmic rays brushing past. There is no ground beneath you, no air to carry sound, no walls to bounce a whisper off of. Yet your presence here is not meaningless. You are a tiny witness to the silence between stars. Silence has a texture here. It presses softly against your awareness, like velvet or fog. And slowly you begin to notice the beauty of its contrast, because Earth is never truly silent. Even in the deepest caves or highest mountains, there is the breath of wind, the rustle of atoms, the beating of your heart. But out here, the heart has nothing to beat against. Time itself stretches. In silence, seconds feel longer. Thoughts echo louder. Your own mind becomes the loudest thing in the universe. You wonder, is this what the galaxy sounds like to someone listening? Scientists have built enormous ears to try and find out. Radio telescopes stretch their dishes toward the sky, scanning for a whisper from the stars. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, has spent decades listening. They tune in 2 radio bands, the quietest parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, hoping to hear something that wasn't made by stars or static, something artificial, something like a voice. But the signals haven't come, and still we listen. Maybe the silence means we are alone, or maybe the silence is just patience, stretched out over cosmic time. Maybe other voices are speaking in ways we don't yet understand. Maybe they whisper in light instead of sound. Maybe their messages are so slow they take decades to unfold. Or perhaps their language is gravity, or pulses of neutrinos, or something stranger still. You drift in the silence, and it begins to feel less lonely, because silence too is a kind of communication. It says, I am here, I am waiting, I am listening. There is a famous paradox that haunts astronomers. If the universe is so vast, and if life is not rare, where is everyone? Why haven't we heard from them? It is called the Fermi Paradox, and we will come to it later. But here, in the stillness, it feels less like a problem and more like a meditation. After all, silence is not absence. It is not rejection. It is simply the space before a reply. You think of all the messages Earth has sent some on purpose, some by accident. The Voyager spacecraft, launched in the 1970s, still drift away from our sun, carrying golden records etched with the sounds of Earth greetings in 55 languages. The music of Bach and Blind Willie Johnson, the recorded heartbeat of a human being. It is a message in a bottle, tossed into the ocean of space. So far, there has been no reply, but perhaps the reply is already traveling toward us, carried by a wave that has not yet reached our shore. Your mind settles into the rhythm of this thought. The quiet between stars is not a void. It is a question mark, a space left open for an answer, a canvas of maybes, and you are a part of the listening. You are made of matter that came from stars. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, these were born in stellar furnaces. You are not separate from the silence. You are cradled by it, shaped by it. And now, in this moment of stillness, you are thinking of others. Others who might also be thinking. Somewhere far beyond the nearest light, another creature might be looking up and wondering the same thing. Is anyone out there? Can anyone hear me? You let the question rest, suspended like a star in your mind. You do not need the answer yet. You only need the wonder, because that is where the journey begins. And as you drift through this chapter, still weightless and wrapped in starlight, you begin to feel the pull of the next thought. Where exactly are you in all this vastness? What is your home in the spiral sea of galaxies? Chapter 2. Your place in the spiral. The Milky Way is your home. A spiral of stars and shadow. You drift through its arms like a speck of dust. But within that dust is the question of life. You are still floating now, suspended in thought, gently spiraling through the velvet dark. But the silence is no longer empty, it is shaped, and that shape is your galaxy, the Milky Way. From far away, your home is a swirl of silver light, stretched like a glowing pinwheel across the sky. It is vast beyond vision, over 100 billion stars, braided into arms that wrap around a luminous center. Each arm curves like a gentle wave, rippling through space, bending around clouds of gas and fields of dust. And somewhere in one of those arms, in a quieter, suburban stretch of the galactic disc, star turns. The sun is not at the center. It's far from it, actually. about 27,000 light-years away. Nestled in a minor spiral arm called the Orion Spur, your solar system drifts along the edge of a cosmic coastline, caught in the tide of the Milky Way's slow rotation. It takes more than 200 million years for your sun to make one full orbit around the galactic center. You are riding a wave that began long before humans, that will continue long after. And yet, here you are, one dot on one rock, orbiting one star, in one arm of one galaxy, and still you wonder. You wonder how many other dots are out there. How many rocks cradle water and warmth. How many stars have planets like Earth, and how many of those planets might carry eyes. Looking back, astronomers believe that nearly every star in the Milky Way has at least one planet. That's over 100 billion worlds. Some may be gas giants, like Jupiter. Some may be scorched and frozen. But many, perhaps billions, are rocky like Earth, and some, we believe, lie in just the right zone. Not too hot, not too cold, the Goldilocks zone. There water could flow, atmospheres could breathe, life in some form could emerge. The search for these planets has become a new kind of stargazing. Instead of looking for light, we now look for shadows. When a planet crosses in front of its star, it dims the light ever so slightly, just enough to be noticed. This tiny flicker is how we found thousands of exoplanets, worlds you can't see but know are there because of the gentle dance of shadow and time. You think of them now, worlds turning in darkness, oceans under red suns, clouds swirling above alien skies. Some may be quiet, some may be teeming, and all of them orbit inside the spiral. Your mind walks along the arms of the galaxy, counting possibilities. In one spiral curl, a sun with 5 planets. In another, a pair of suns with a frozen ring. The Milky Way becomes a map of questions, and still the scale grows. The galaxy is not a flat picture. It is layered, a thick rotating disk of stars, a bulge at the center glowing like a lantern, a halo of invisible matter wrapping it all in mystery. Dark matter, we call it, not because it is black, but because we cannot see it, and yet we feel its presence. It bends the paths of stars. It holds the spiral in place. You are held by that unseen force, swept into its current. It is strange to think that most of the matter in your galaxy is not what you know. The atoms in your body, your bones, your breath make up only a fraction of what the Milky Way contains. The rest is invisible, but not absent. The galaxy is full of unseen things, and that includes the possible. Where there is space, there is a chance for life. And where there is life, there is the urge to wonder. You picture the galaxy not as a fixed thing, but as a conversation. Each star a question, each planet a reply. You are inside a story being written in light and gravity, and yet you have never left Earth. You have never even left your star's reach. Your furthest travel Voyager 1 is just now drifting into interstellar space after nearly 50 years. It has traveled less than 1,000th of the way across the Milky Way. And so you dream. You look outward and you listen, because though you are small, you are not lost. You are part of this spiral, a single thought turning in the galaxy's mind, and perhaps elsewhere in the arms, someone else is dreaming too. You both lie in the folds of starlight. You both feel the pull of gravity and wonder. And as you breathe in this awareness, this belonging, you begin to feel the next question forming, not about where you are, but when, because space is only half the mystery. What about time? Chapter 3. Life, as you know it. What is life, really? A pattern, a process, a flicker of chemistry. This chapter peers inward to your cells, your breath, and the delicate balance that lets you exist. You draw in a slow breath, and though it feels simple, air in, air out, it is anything but. Inside that breath, a quiet miracle unfolds. Oxygen meets cells that have waited for it. They accept it like a gift, like a promise, and the energy of your body is renewed. This is life, a process unfolding in microscopic harmony. You are made of cells, billions upon billions, each one a tiny world. Inside every cell, water hums, proteins fold, and instructions are read from curled strands of code. DNA, a spiral like the galaxy, but smaller. So small it coils in every nucleus, yet carries the story of you. You are not a thing, but a pattern, held together by time. Life is not just being alive, it is staying alive, repairing, remembering, adapting. You, sitting quietly, are doing more than you feel. You are regulating heat, filtering blood, rebuilding skin, listening with every part of you, even when you don't notice. You are awareness, held in chemistry. Life, for now, means carbon. It means water. It means complex molecules that dance together like partners in a never-ending waltz. Carbon bonds isolate, a generous host. Water moves heat, dissolves nutrients, shapes molecules into life's signature forms. The two of them, carbon and water, are the soft clay of your being. And yet, this recipe is rare, not because atoms are rare, but because the balance is fragile. Your planet cradles perfectly placed, not too close to the sun, not too far. Earth holds liquid water like a cup holds tea. Its atmosphere is just thick enough to breathe, just thin enough to let light through. Its gravity hugs you gently to the ground. All of it just enough. Life, as you know, it is the product of balance, of conditions falling into alignment, temperature, pressure, sunlight, magnetism, a cosmic choreography that lets a cell divide and divide again until you, this dreaming, breathing, thinking, being, appear. But here's the beautiful thing. You are not separate from life. You are life. Life that thinks, life that asks questions, life that wants to know itself, even in sleep. You are alive in every way that matters. Your heart whispers in its own rhythm. Your lungs rise and fall like waves. Your brain travels dream paths, replaying fragments and forging new ones. And all of it is biology in motion. You are a warm current in a cold cosmos, a burst of order in a universe that leans toward chaos. Yet somehow, life resists the pull. It builds structure. It creates patterns. It replicates itself like a melody passed from note to note. Even the smallest microbe, drifting in a drop of water, follows this rule. Life learns how not to end. That, perhaps, is its greatest trick. But it does not do this alone. It relies on the laws of physics, on the whims of molecules, on the softness of a planet's surface. It dances with entropy, always on the edge of unraveling, and yet it endures. You may wonder, is this the only kind of life? Must it always look like this? Carbon water cells? We don't know. but we hope. We search astrobiologists who dream professionally look for signs of life beyond Earth, not by finding beings, but by looking for breath, for imbalance, for whispers in the atmosphere that hint at metabolism. On a distant world, if we find oxygen where there should be none, it might mean something is breathing. Or perhaps life is stranger than we imagine. Perhaps on some alien moon, methane flows like water, and silicon weaves the scaffold of thought. Perhaps life wears different shapes. Perhaps it does not breathe at all. Still, the question remains, is life a fluke, or a thread that runs through the fabric of the universe? You close your eyes, you feel the pulse in your wrist in some other form, and you realize that to be alive is not just a fact, it is a sensation. To live is to feel the world move through you, to respond, to react, to reach. Life is not the atoms, but the way the atoms behave when they're arranged just right. The line between living and non-living is delicate. A virus, for example, floats in a strange place. It cannot grow, cannot move, unless it enters a cell. Is it alive? Is it something else? We try to draw lines, but nature resists them. And perhaps that's the point. Life is not a fixed shape, but a possibility. A way for the universe to know itself. And in this moment, you are that possibility. You are what stardust becomes when it remembers to breathe. You are a poem written in proteins, a question wrapped in skin. And just beyond this thought, softly waiting, is the next mystery. Not what life is about, how it begins. Chapter 4. The echoes we send you are made of signals, your voice, your thoughts. Even this story travel as waves, and some of those waves shave already left Earth forever. You sit in stillness, but your presence is not silent. Even in sleep, your body hums, a soft electricity runs beneath your skin. Your brain pulses with signals, your heart whispers in rhythm, and your breath stirs the air around you. You are not just made of matter, you are made of waves. Inside your brain, every thought travels as a ripple, a tiny electrochemical surge, skipping across neurons like wind across grass. These signals are delicate, yes, but also powerful. They create memory, imagination, language. They shape your awareness, and when you speak, something astonishing happens. Air vibrates, sound forms. Your voice becomes a wave, pressing outward, touching the world. These waves move through space, carried by molecules that bump into each other, hand to hand, like a message passed in a crowd. But there's another kind of wave that doesn't need air at all. Radio waves, invisible, silent, wide. These signals can stretch across the cosmos. Every time a radio was turned on, every time a television show aired, every time a spacecraft spoke to Earth, we sent a whisper into space. And whispers don't stop. They keep traveling past the moon, past the planets, past the farthest Voyager probe, out toward the stars. You might not realize it, but somewhere in the dark, the echo of your world is still moving. The earliest TV broadcasts, the first music, the first news are now more than 100 light years away. Out there, somewhere, hello is still on its journey. These are your echoes, Earth's quiet songs to the universe. No message has yet returned. But maybe that's not the point, because even without a reply, sending a signal is a kind of hope. a reaching out, a sign that we are here, awake and wondering. You, lying in the dark, are part of that signal. Your thoughts shaped by language, your voice shaped by biology, your ears tuned to listen. You are both the sender and the receiver. The universe is filled with waves, light waves, radio waves, gravity waves. Some are born in the hearts of stars. Some are sent by civilizations, perhaps like yours. Some arrive quietly, lost in the noise. But a few, a very few, might carry meaning. The search for extraterrestrial intelligences. E.T. Ilisons, giant radio telescopes, spread their arms wide, like cupped hands. They sift through noise, hoping for a pattern, a pulse, a mathematical hello. So far, silence, or something close to it. But the silence doesn't mean absence. It could mean waiting. It could mean difference. It could mean we're not listening at the right moment. It might not sound like a voice. It might look like a repeating pulse, or a burst of prime numbers, or something stranger in order. We haven't yet learned to recognize. You wonder, would you even notice it? Could your mind, tuned to human rhythms, understand something shaped by alien thought? Still, we try, because to send and to receive, these are acts of connection. Like seeds scattered on wind, these waves are a kind of planting. Maybe they will find soil. Maybe someday someone will answer. But even if no one does, the signal matters, because to send a message is to admit that you are not alone in your own mind. It's to imagine someone listening, someone curious, someone somewhere wondering the same things. And that shared wondering is its own kind of companionship. Out there, drifting in the great quiet, your planet glows faintly. Your atmosphere hums. Earth itself radiates. Every device, every satellite, every thought beamed skyward has joined the great outward wave. You are not just living on a world. You are helping it speak, even in your sleep. Your phone may send a signal, a heartbeat of data connecting you to a vast invisible web. These digital pulses, too, become part of the planetary murmur. We are always whispering, sometimes to each other, sometimes to space, sometimes to silence. And silence is not empty. It is possibility. Think of this, the signal from Earth is not a shout, but a shimmer, faint, fading, but steady. Like a lighthouse that knows someone, someday, may see it. The light doesn't know who's watching. It shines anyway. So you close your eyes, knowing that somewhere out there, your species is still speaking, still asking, still listening, still sending, even as you rest, even as the night deepens and softly, gently, a new question begins to form. If they are out there, what do they send back? Chapter 5. Listening to the dark. What if someone else is calling too? We eavesdrop on the universe, searching for whispers in cosmic noise in the quiet sky. Are we alone, or just not hearing clearly? You lie still beneath the hush of night, where the stars seem to blink in slow, patient rhythms. Around you, the room is quiet, but your mind drifts farther than your walls, beyond city noise, beyond wind and weather, beyond even the rustle of Earth's breath. You drift into the silence that exists between the stars and wonder. Is it truly silent? Space, after all, is not mute. It's filled with soundless waves, traveling not in air, but in electromagnetic size radio waves, light pulses, infrared breath. The cosmos is talking. The question is, are we listening carefully enough? From the high deserts of Earth to the cold orbits above it, our instruments stretch their ears to the dark. Radio telescopes with dishes like upturned palms wait patiently, some for decades, for a signal that doesn't belong to Earth, a whisper that might say, "You are not alone." You may have heard of Itha signal that came in 1977, a short, strange spike in a radio wave, lasting just 72 seconds. No follow-up, no repetition. It's called the wow signal, named after the simple note written beside it. Imagine that, a possible message from far away, preserved in a scribble of human wonder. But space is loud in its own way. The universe is constantly humming with the static of creation, exploding stars, black holes feeding, pulsars ticking like ghostly clocks. To hear another intelligence through all that requires not just sharp instruments, but also delicate patience. It's like trying to pick out a whisper in the middle of a storm. And so we wait. We scan the sky, not just with ears, but with algorithms and patterns and guesses. We send messages, coded in prime numbers, musical tones, or pictograms. Messages meant to say, "Here we are." Messages meant to show that we are made of math, of music, of meaning. But think for a moment not about what we send, but about how we listen. What if the message has already come, but we missed it? What if we haven't tuned our ears to the right frequency? Or worse, what if we don't yet know how to understand it? Imagine a creature made of light, communicating in ultraviolet waves, or a civilization so old their messages stretch across millennia, echoing so slowly we mistake them for background noise, or one that speaks through gravity, bending space-time to murmur across the stars. Listening to the dark requires more than antennas. It requires imagination. It requires the humility to admit that we may not know what we're looking for. It requires curiosity that doesn't expect an answer but continues to ask. And yet, even in this unknowing, we keep trying. Every quiet night, somewhere, someone points a dish at the sky and listens. Every moment, data streams down like starlight, collected and combed and parsed for patterns. It is a symphony without a score, an orchestra of possibility. You are part of that listening. In your own way, lying here in the soft dark, your thoughts are aligned with that search. You too are tuning in, not with machines, but with wonder, perhaps. You don't need proof to believe that something else might exist. Perhaps the vastness itself is enough, the size of the cosmos, its age, its complexity, all pointing toward the idea that life is not a fluke, but a thread that might weave through more than one world. What would it change if we heard a voice? Would it frighten you? Would it comfort you? Or would it simply feel like confirmation of a suspicion long held in your quietest thoughts? Even silence is not nothing. Silence is data. It tells us something too, that if they are out there, they are not loud, they are not obvious, they may be distant, they may be cautious, or they may be using a language we haven't learned to dream in yet. You rest in this stillness, cradled by the idea that somewhere, something might be listening back. And even if they are not, there's a kind of peace in reaching out anyway, in continuing the call, in being a voice, even in the void. So we keep sending and we keep listening, each signal a hope, each silence a pause filled with meaning. And maybe, just maybe, in one of these long, quiet nights, a whisper will return, a whisper that leads us not just outward, but deeper inward, to how we define life itself. Chapter 6. A map of maybe the galaxy is wide, but not all stars are equal. We trace the Goldilocks zones, where water might flow and biology might bloom. You begin with a quiet breath, drifting once more into the gentle dark around you. Stars shimmer, like candlelight scattered across a velvet sea. Each one pulses with its own rhythm, its own temperature, its own possibility. Not all stars are the same, and not all places around them can cradle life, but some. Some hold a quiet maybe. You are floating in a galaxy shaped like a slow whirl of milk in water, spiraling arms curving in a slow, stately dance. This is your home, the Milky Way. 100 billion stars swirl here with you, and around many of them, planets orbit in silence, unseen and waiting. But not every planet is a home, and not every star is a welcoming hearth. Your journey tonight follows the quiet science of seeking, looking, not for aliens in spaceships or blinking lights in the sky, but for the gentle math of warmth, distance, and time. You begin with the stars. Some are too big and bright. Blue giants burn hot and fast like fireworks in slow motion. Beautiful, yes, but short-lived. Life, as you know it, takes time to settle in. These stars flare too quickly for biology to grow roots. Others are too dim, small red dwarfs that flicker with bursts of radiation. Some burn with surprising patience, lasting billions of years, but their flares can strip a nearby planet's atmosphere bare, like wind tearing leaves from a tree. And then there are stars like your own, quiet yellow stars, steady, warm, but not too warm, long-lived, but not eternal. They give their planets the gift of time, a slow, golden span in which molecules might dance, combine, and become something more. Around these stars, there's a delicate ribbon of space scientists call the habitable zone. You might think of it as the Goldilocks zone, not too cold, but just right. It's here that water, if it exists, can stay in liquid form, not frozen into silence, not boiled into steam, just liquid, flowing, pooling, waiting, liquid. Water is one of life's great invitations. It dissolves, it carries, it moves. Within its rippling depths, molecules can collide, link, twist, and become something new. On Earth, it was in water that life first whispered into being, and so the search begins by tracing the quiet lines around distant stars, looking for planets in this gentle zone. You picture them, blue-gray marbles, some with oceans hidden under clouds, others dry and barren but promising. Scientists give them names like Kepler 186f, Proxima b, or TRAPPIST-1e, whispers of hope wrapped in numbers and letters. But a planet in the habitable zone is only a maybe. The math is promising, but the story is missing its details. Is there an atmosphere to hold warmth? Is there a magnetic field to protect against solar wind? Is there time, millions, maybe billions of years for chemistry to gather its courage and take a leap into biology? You float through these questions gently, like drifting over a field of unopened flowers. Each world is a bud. Some may bloom, some may not, but all carry the echo of possibility. Telescopes become your eyes, not just glass and mirrors, but spaceborne instruments, silent sentinels watching the sky. They search for winks of starlight, tiny dips in brightness as planets pass in front of their suns. They analyze the thin light filtering through alien atmospheres, searching for fingerprints, oxygen, methane, water vapor. From these faint traces, a new kind of map is drawn. Not a map of where life is, but where it might be, where conditions are gentle enough, where chemistry has a chance to stir, and perhaps, out there, another eye is looking back. Another observer on another planet, sketching their own map of Maybesand, circling a small yellow star, wondering what whispers from there. Your heart slows. The stars spin lazily overhead. You feel the weight of potential not as a burden, but as a comfort. You live in a galaxy generous with stars, scattered with billions of planets. Even if only a tiny fraction hold what Earth holds, even that would be enough. Maybe you drift on, deeper into the spiral arms. The next chapter waits not about where life could be, but how you might know it is. What signs would it send, and would you hear them when they arrive on waves older than memory? Chapter 7. The Shadow of Fermi. Life is likely. Why is the universe so quiet? Fermi's paradox settles over you like a question mark, cloud, haunting and soft. Like a riddle before sleep, you lie back into the quiet again, the fabric of your thoughts weaving with stars. In all directions, the sky stretches, soft, dark, endless. Somewhere out there, trillions of planets swing in their orbits like slow, silent pendulums. You've just wandered through Goldilocks zones, imagined alien oceans, sketched hopeful maps of maybe. But now, in the stillness between your breaths, a new question curls around you. Where is everyone? This is the paradox that gently presses against your imagination. The Fermi Paradox, so named for the physicist Enrico Fermi, who once asked, simply, almost casually, if the universe is so big and life is so probable, then where is everybody? You think of it not like an alarm, but like a feather falling on a pond. The ripples are quiet, but wide. We should have heard something by now, don't you think? A flicker, a signal, a ship, anything. After all, our galaxy alone holds more than 100 billion stars. Many of those stars are older than the sun, and around many of them, planets likely dance. Statistically, life should have happened again and again. Perhaps it has. Perhaps it does. But still, the silence remains. This isn't just a question. It's a shadow. You lie still with it. You don't rush, because paradoxes aren't puzzles to be solved quickly. They're companions to sit with, to breathe with, to wonder beside. Maybe civilizations are fragile. Maybe they rise and fall like waves, their voices never overlapping. Maybe they burn too hot too fast, flickering out before they can cross the stars. Or perhaps we are simply early, not first, but among the first. A young voice in a still quiet forest. Another thought floats by. Maybe we're loud in ways others are not. Perhaps the signals we listen for are the wrong kind, like tuning into radio waves while the universe hums in pulses of gravity, or beams its messages in neutrino bursts, or curls data into shadows we haven't yet learned to see. There's a sadness here, but not a hopeless one. More like the ache you feel looking out across an ocean at night, unsure if a lighthouse exists on the far shore. You raise your hand, you wave, and maybe someone waves back, but you both are just out of reach. Still, you keep watching. Maybe they're hiding, not from fear, but from wisdom. What if, In a crowded cosmos, it's safest to be quiet. What if the lesson of age is restraint? You imagine ancient beings, not absent, but careful, whispering instead of shouting, waiting instead of landing. Or maybe you think we are looking in the wrong direction altogether, searching stars when the mystery is closer. Maybe the aliens live beneath oceans of Europa, not above them. Maybe the spark of intelligence is still coiling itself up in jungles, caves, clouds of methane. The possibilities swirl. They don't bring answers, but they cradle you in imagination. And still, always, there's the echo. If life is likely, where is everyone? There's comfort in knowing that this question lives in many minds. Scientists run models, send signals, build telescopes with eyes so sensitive they can see a candle flicker on the edge of time. Philosophers turn the paradox like a stone in their palm. Artists dream of first contact. Children gaze upward and wonder. You're not alone in your wondering. And that, perhaps, is something. A small communion of questions, stitched across the globe, all pulsing toward the sky. You breathe, you imagine, you drift, because even if the stars stay silent, your thoughts are speaking. Even if the darkness holds its secrets, you are made of curiosity. Your brain, the same that dreams, is also a machine that asks, again and again. And perhaps the asking is its own kind of answer. Perhaps the quiet of the stars is not rejection, but invitation. A pause before the next page, a silence that opens just a little. As you begin to wonder, what if they've already come and gone and we were simply too small, too slow, too silent to notice? Chapter 8. Aliens might not look like aliens. What would they be made of? Not green skin or large black eyes, but chemistry strange to us, minds shaped by other stars, and languages we may never understand. You imagine them, don't you? Wide-eyed and thin-limbed, floating silently through silver ships. Hollywood has shaped their faces for you. But real aliens, if they exist, may be nothing like this. They might not have faces at all, or eyes, or mouths. They might not move the way you do. They might not move at all. Their world may not need legs, or wings, or muscles. Perhaps they are still pools of sentient liquid, or colonies of microscopic minds, scattered like coral across a sea of methane. Start instead with what you know. You are made of carbon. Your life is powered by sunlight, by water, by oxygen. Your body obeys the needs of Earth, its gravity, its air, its warmth. Your senses are tuned to this planet, and your intelligence evolved through struggle, love, memory, and motion. Every emotion you feel, every thought you think, is shaped by the chemistry of your blood and the biology of your ancestors. But imagine life on a planet without sunlight, deep in the icy shell of a moon, where warmth seeps from below instead of above. Their life might draw energy from minerals or radioactivity, not from the sky. Eyes would be useless. Language might be vibration. Thought might ripple through crystal or mist. Or imagine a planet with a dense, wet atmosphere, thick with clouds. The beings there may fly, or drift, or bloom like flowers, inhaling chemistry. Maybe they taste light instead of seeing it. Maybe their brains are woven through their limbs, or spread out like moss. You cannot guess their fears. You cannot guess their dreams. Even their chemistry might feel impossible to you. On Earth, carbon is the great builder of life, flexible, sticky, generous. But what if somewhere else, life clings to silicon, which shares carbon's longing to bond, but in colder, slower ways? What if arsenic, so poisonous here, is nourishing there? Life doesn't need to resemble what you already know. It only needs to endure. And then there is time. Life elsewhere may rise in pulses we cannot see, creatures that live for minutes or for millennia. Intelligence might not mean speech or science. It might mean harmony, memory, or even stillness. There may be planets where the most advanced minds do not build cities, but become forests. How would you ever recognize them? Would your instruments know what to look for? Could you speak if neither of you had words? Could you even agree what counts as life? Here on Earth, you already struggle with these questions. Viruses exist on the edge of life. Mushrooms blur boundaries. Octopuses, so alien already, taste with their arms and dream in ink. Even among your own kind, thought takes many shapes. Brains are just one way of thinking. In your own oceans, whales compose low songs that echo for hours. Trees speak in chemicals through their roots. The planet is already rich with minds that do not match yours. Why should the cosmos be any less strange? Maybe aliens are not visitors from outside. Maybe they are neighbors, quiet, elusive, just out of reach. Maybe they're waiting. Maybe they've passed you already, unnoticed in a comet's tail, or curled in a radio wave too complex to decode. Or maybe they're not waiting at all. Maybe they are so different, so unlike your kind of being, that there is no reason to find you or even to understand what you means. Your sense of what's intelligent, what's alive, what's possible, these are stories you carry. Useful stories, but limited. And beyond Earth, those stories begin to stretch, to bend, to crack open. What if aliens are not them at all? What if they are the feeling of being watched in the dark? The pattern in a signal you can't translate, the shape of an idea that keeps returning to your mind at night. Sometimes, when you gaze into space, you are not looking for another species. You are looking for a mirror, a sign that you are not alone in your ability to wonder and wonder. It turns out may be the first universal language still. The stars remain quiet, which brings you gently to the next question, one you already carry inside you like a whisper. What if they've tried to reach us and we didn't hear them? What if the message arrived too late? Chapter 9. The Mirror of Loneliness. Sometimes the search for others reflects back on ourselves. What does it mean to be alone? And how does wonder survive when no one answers? In the stillness of deep space, you drift. There is no wind here, no echo, no murmur of footfall or feather, just the dark, stretched out like a blanket without end. Yet, even here, in this fathomless silence, a question hums quietly beneath everything. Are we alone? It's a question that folds inward as much as it looks out, because in your wondering, you feel it, not just the curiosity, but the ache, the longing, not just to find, but to be found, not just to speak, but to be heard. You imagine another being, a distant mind, wrapped in unfamiliar biology. You don't know its language, or its shape, or how it senses light, but you know something deeper. If it exists, it too might wonder. It too might pause and ask quietly, am I alone? This loneliness, then, is not small. It stretches across galaxies. It is not a flaw, not something to erase, but a signal, a mirror. The telescope becomes not just a tool for seeing out, but a lens turned gently inward. Each signal you listen for, each exoplanet you chart, each pulse of radio noise you comb through is also an act of self-reflection, because in every hope of meeting another, you clarify the story of your own presence. Loneliness in space is not the loneliness of absence, but the loneliness of mystery, the kind that blooms when no one replies, and yet you keep asking. It's not hollow. It's full of something fragile and golden. Hope. You walk the shores of this cosmic ocean with cupped hands, trying to carry water that slips through fingers, trying to catch signals in static, trying to interpret silence not as rejection, but as the stillness before the answer. Because maybe silence doesn't mean empty. Maybe silence is just distance, not dismissal. Maybe they haven't heard us yet. Maybe they are still learning to speak. Maybe their messages are on their way, riding the slow light of stars, sailing through electromagnetic winds, not lost, just arriving late. And while you wait, you listen. You build instruments from copper and hope, code algorithms into dreamcatchers, turn dish-shaped ears to the sky. You filter cosmic rays and spinning pulsars, searching for patterns not born from chance. Even if nothing comes, this work is not wasted, because what it builds inside you is a posture of attention, a habit of reverence, an openness to wonder that spills into the rest of your life. You look at silence differently. You begin to hear it, not as void, but as invitation, a quiet space to fill with questions, not with noise. And you begin to understand. To long for connection is to believe that connection matters. To ache for another voice is to trust there is something worth saying. Your solitude becomes less like a cage and more like a clearing in the woods where another might enter, where a whisper might arrive, where something unimagined might breathe. And so you remain here, not as a prisoner of absence, but as a keeper of the possible, not holding your breath, but breathing into the dark, not waiting with despair, but with patience that blooms like a slow galaxy. The mirror of loneliness does not show you lack, it shows you depth. It shows you how much room you have inside too. Welcome the unknown, and that is where the next chapter begins. Not with loneliness, but with readiness for something strange and wonderful that might already be watching you through its own sky. Chapter 10. If we ever meet, would it be light? Would it be ruin? Would we whisper, or would they speak first? This final drift imagines the moment of contact and reminds youth that curiosity is already a kind of connection. You lie still beneath the ceiling of stars, wondering not what lies beyond, but who. The quiet hum of the earth spins below you, and overhead the heavens remain vast and hushed. You let yourself drift deeper and slower now into the question that humans have asked since they first looked up. If we are not alone, what would it mean to meet another mind? This chapter is not about answers. It is about the moment before the answer, when your breath catches in the hush of a signal, or the glimmer of motion just beyond the edge of what your telescope sees. It is about the contact that has not happened yet, and the thousand ways your mind tries to fill that space. Would it be sudden, a burst of noise, unmistakable, undeniable, turning science into history in an instant? Or would it be slow, patient, like a whisper across the dark, echoing and fading until someone, somewhere, leans in and hears? You imagine a signal, not words, not music, something else, perhaps a rhythm, a pulse in radio waves, a structure, intentional to be random. It doesn't say hello because it does not know what that means, but it does say, we are here. And that, you realize, is enough. You picture yourself listening. The sky around you is silent, but in your headphones, there's a new beat, something too regular, too strange. You don't understand it, not yet. But your heart knows the shape of a message. Would you feel fear? Maybe. But fear often comes from stories, from movies where aliens arrive with war, from books where technology turns violent. But in reality, the silence has lasted so long that when a voice does come, it may sound more like relief. Perhaps it won't be them who speak first. Perhaps it will be you. Maybe it already has been. Maybe the Voyager probes, drifting endlessly with their golden records, are our earliest lullabies to the stars. Maybe our messages are seeds planted in alien soil, waiting for minds with different eyes to read them. And maybe they have already answered, but in a language we haven't yet learned to hear. In neutrinos, in gravity waves, in flickers of light that we dismiss as background. Maybe the conversation is happening now, quietly, between the patterns of physics and the poetry of intent. What would they look like? Maybe not like us. Maybe no eyes, no mouths. Maybe their minds live in clouds, or lattice, or oceans of thought. Perhaps they sing with particles. Perhaps they remember in magnetic fields. Would we even recognize each other as alive? This is the paradox. We search for ourselves in the stars, but what we find may be utterly alien. And yet, if there is communication, then in some deep way there is common ground. Not biology, not language, but curiosity. Because to reach across space is to ask a question, and to reply is to care enough to answer. That loop, that shimmering thread between minds is what makes intelligence visible. Not how we look, not what we know, but that we wonder, and that we listen. And maybe, in that moment, what matters is not the answer at all. Maybe what matters is the silence that becomes listening, and the listening that becomes presence. Maybe what matters is you. Your heartbeat is slow now, like a clock winding down beneath warm blankets. Your thoughts drift softly in the darkness, tethered only by questions. You don't need to rush. You don't need to understand, because in wondering, you are already reaching, and maybe, somewhere, someone else is too. And in the silence between those reachings, something waits.